What's up, guys? Today we've got the Galaxy S10 5G versus the Galaxy S23 Ultra here. So if you're thinking about upgrading, again, as always, there are definitely some pros and some cons here. But let's go ahead and get started and figure out, is this going to be worth the upgrade for you? Alright, so first off, I want to go ahead and talk about the design of these two phones. The S10 5G, basically, the S10 Plus that we just looked at. But it's much bigger, as you can see. It's about the same size as the S23 Ultra. It's definitely lighter. You will notice that the S23 Ultra, since it has a bigger battery, it is definitely a heavier phone. But they're about the same size in hand. The S10 5G does curve, so it's a little bit more comfortable in the hand. The S23 is definitely a little bit more boxy here, and there's definitely, a hardware difference that you'll notice here. With the S23, we do have our built-in stylus down below. So if you like to do digital artwork, if you like to draw, you'll really like the S23 for that. It's definitely extremely accurate, and also Samsung has a ton of features built into the software with this phone to be able to take advantage of the S Pen. Also with the S10, you do have a headphone jack down here for your die-hard headphone lovers. Now the headphone jack is gone on the S23, so you don't have that, but you do have the S Pen. So that's sort of something that you have to kind of see. Would you see yourself using the S Pen a lot? Also, you can see big design change here. You have a totally different camera design here. Cameras are just much bigger. And yeah, I do really like the design actually on both of these phones here. You have more of a glossy finish on the S10, so it does pick up fingerprints. You have a more matte finish on the S23. Both of these phones are IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. Alright, so let's talk about the displays on both of these phones here. So you do have a 6.8-inch display on the S23. It's dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10 Plus, and it gets 1750 nits peak brightness, and it is a 1440p display, 500 for the PPI, and it is a more boxier type screen with a single punch hole. And the S10 5G, it does have a 6.7-inch display, so it's a little bit smaller. And then you also have 1440p resolution, 502 for the PPI, again dynamic AMOLED HDR10 Plus. Again, the big difference here is not so much with the resolution. They pretty much look identical in terms of quality-wise. When you're looking at movies, playing games and stuff like that, color-wise, quality-wise, since they're such high-resolution displays. The big difference here with the display is actually the 120 Hz versus the 60 Hz. S23 Ultra does have that 120 Hz, and it definitely feels just much smoother when you are just scrolling and just coming in and out of applications. It just feels smoother than a 60 Hz panel for sure here. Also, you'll notice you don't have the double punch hole, so if the double punch hole annoys you, you have a smaller punch hole in the middle as well too. I like both displays, like I said, both great displays, but the two biggest upgrades here is going to be 120 Hz and also just max brightness outdoors is just way better. It's just easier to see the S23 Ultra in direct sunlight. So those are basically the essential upgrades there. Now let's talk about the specs a little bit more here. So the S10 5G, it is running Android 12 One UI 4.1. That is the last major OS update for this phone, and it's currently getting security patches right now. We also have the Snapdragon 855 chip on here as well too. No SD card support, so Samsung took SD card support away from this phone, so you don't have that. And this base model is 256 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM here. The S23 Ultra, you do have a pretty nice spec upgrade. You can see from the single and multi-core score here with the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset on here made for Galaxy. And then this one also has no SD card support. This specific one is 512 gigabytes and 12 gigs of RAM, but the base is 256 and 8 gigs of RAM. Basically with speed, the general person won't notice too much of a speed difference at all, or like I said, the 120 Hertz is probably the thing that you'll notice the most, just how smooth and how fluid the animations look at 120 Hertz. But really anything else, you're not going to really notice too much of a difference with speed. Like I said, the Snapdragon 855 chip is still pretty fast. Of course, the S23 Ultra is going to be faster, but like I said, guys, it's not anything that you'll really notice too much of a difference here, honestly. So if you're looking for like a big speed improvement here, you're just not going to find that here. And again, like I said, it's really the scrolling stuff like that. Scrolling stuff you'll definitely feel just a smoother experience on the S23 Ultra here. Also, when it comes to gaming performance, again, I don't think this is a massive upgrade for gamers. Alright guys, so basically for the casual gamer, you won't see too much of a difference. So on the S23 Ultra, you are able to run at HDR Extreme. This does have the capability to run it at 90 frames. It just hasn't been updated yet. But yes, is the gaming experience overall going to be better? If you're an extreme gamer, yes, the battery life is better. It doesn't get as hot during long periods of gaming. And yeah, it's just overall smoother experience. It'll be able to hold frame rates. And then also, if you plan on keeping the phone for a long time, obviously, you know, it's just going to last longer than the S10 5G in terms of power. PUBG here on the S10 5G, it actually still plays extremely well, HDR Extreme. That's why I said it's not a big jump if you're not really into games like that. So casual games, Subway Surfer, you can play on here. Even games like PUBG, Call of Duty. I have a full gaming test on this phone actually. It does perfectly fine, I think, for the average person. Again, if you're really into games, obviously you're going to want that extra GPU power that the S23 offers you. But basically, guys, this phone still does a very good job at gaming here. Alright, so let's see which one has the best speaker, because the S10 5G has an extremely good speaker. Yeah, the speaker on this phone is absolutely nuts. So what's pretty interesting here is that the S10 5G surprisingly sounds a little bit louder, but the overall sound quality of the S23 Ultra sounds better. The overall bass is clear. I can hear the lower notes. It overall sounds cleaner, but the S10 5G actually does sound louder. It's just that the sound is not as clear as the S23 Ultra. So yeah, that's pretty shocking. The S23 Ultra speakers are great, but I'm always surprised with the S10 5G. It's super loud. Also, these phones pretty much have the same additional features. Again, unless we're talking about the S Pen, both under the display fingerprint sensors. They both have face unlock. They both pretty much have, you know, the same software stuff. Samsung desktop support, secure folders, all that good stuff is still on here. So basically everything you can do on here software wise, you can do on this phone as well too. So you're not missing out on anything. And again, the big thing here is that the S23 Ultra gets 4 years of major OS updates and 5 years of security patches. I believe the S10 5G should get around 2 more years of security patches. So yeah, so just keep that in mind when it comes to, you know, the software experience. Alright, so the specs on the S10 5G, you do have a 12 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel telephoto that does 2x optical zoom, and then you also have a ultra wide on here as well, and that is 16 megapixels, and it also has a depth sensor as well too. This phone also shoots in 4K 60. It does have a 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. Now you're getting a pretty big upgrade. I cannot talk today. A pretty big upgrade with the S23 Ultra. You just have a ton more zoom and a ton of more just camera capabilities here. So this phone has a 200 megapixel lens on here, so you can take 200 megapixel shots. They're going to be way more detailed. You also have a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, so it does 10x optical zoom. It goes to 30 and even 100 times zoom on here as well too, which is crazy. It shoots in 8K 30, which is actually pretty good. It's pretty usable as well too, which is pretty nice. And then this phone has a macro mode. It also shoots in 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60 as well. And I forgot to mention, it does have a 12 megapixel ultra wide here. So basically you get more cameras, right? Or not really even more cameras, but you just get better zoom capabilities on here and more detailed shots. That's what pretty much what Samsung's trying to sell you on. So check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys think of the image quality. Alright guys, here's the video on the S10 5G here. Alright, 2x. Also got our 0.5. Alright guys, here's just a little test footage of the S23 Ultra here for the video. The 3x. 10x. As you can see, just look at the detail. It's really, really nice. Very, very impressive. And we do have a 0.6 on here as well too. So just awesome image quality here, man. Alright, so lastly, let's talk about the battery experience. The S23 does have a 5,000 milliamp battery. The S10 does have a 4,500 milliamp battery. The S23 does 45 watt charging, and this does 25 watt charging. They both have wireless and reverse wireless charging. Alright, so basically you do have much better battery life on the S23 this year. It's actually shockingly good. You can easily get about 2 days of battery life out of this phone, which is extremely good. My S10 5G does it very good with battery life as well too. I'm very easily able to get around a day of battery with this phone, or around 6 hours of screen on time, which is pretty good. So overall, if you're looking for a good battery upgrade, I think this is pretty good. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. Alright, so that's pretty much it, guys. Those are all the pros and cons of the upgrade. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.